Hey, what's up, douchebags? It's time for a story, so please shut your mouth, sit around in a nice semicircle if you have friends or family with you, turn up the volume on your computer so you can hear every bit of my pitch as I tell you this harrowing tale. But, that's kind of a lie because it's about finals week, but whatever. It's still pretty scary. Finals suck. But it's not scary for me. It was incredibly entertaining for me. But this story begins when I was going into an exam. Going into an exam, everybody is there early for the class, pouring through their notes, trying to learn everything at the last second that they don't already know and feel like they know. And so, traditional pre-exam lecture hall, exactly what you would expect. And so I was sitting in the front row because I always sit in the front row for exam days because you get the exam first. There's no reason to sit in the back, then you have to wait. That's silliness. So sit in the front row, and everybody around me is just nose deep right in their book and their notes trying to figure this stuff out. Remember the equations and everything, and the girl next to me was sitting there with her iPod in, kind of like tapping her finger on her desk, and I didn't pay any heed to it. Some people like to listen to music before they take an exam, kind of relax, mellow themselves out. That makes sense. No problem there. I just kept doing my own thing, and there was one section of the text that I really didn't understand. I didn't understand how to do this equation. You should know I am not good at math, and this isn't even like a hard math class. This was a upper level finance course, and so it really wasn't a lot of laborious math work. But even for me, it's intimidating. I'm not good with numbers. I always kind of freak out when I see a bunch of numbers in an equation or in a word problem, and I feel like kind of overwhelmed, and I have difficulties organizing it. But that's aside from the point. So I turned to this girl and I kind of gestured, not like pulled her ear things out, but kind of like gestured, like, hey, can you help me with this? Just pointing at my book. And you know how sometimes you learn something better by explaining it to someone? Well, this was the opposite effect of that. She started explaining it to me, and about 20 seconds into her explanation, I remembered exactly how I had been taught to do it, and I knew she was 100% wrong, like totally off base, like had no idea, like she wasn't even close. And so I just kind of like kept humoring her, like, oh yeah, but I think, oh, I remember now, you're supposed to do this. And she kind of like looked embarrassed and was like, oh, I guess, yeah, I must have, forgot that for a second. Oh, my bad. And she just kept on listening to her music and waiting, and she seemed pretty confident about the test. When I asked her, how do you feel about this, she was like, oh, I feel pretty good. I didn't study that much, but this stuff's pretty easy. And, when people say that, that's fine. I mean, to me, this stuff wasn't easy, but things come easily to different people. So we're sitting there, the guy comes in with a big stack of tests, tells everybody to put everything away, and starts handing out the tests. So he walks up to our row, takes out the tests, big fatty packets, and hands it to me. I pass it to this girl, and so on and so forth. Now, the first 20 minutes or so of this test, I'm so focused in on it, really trying to just pour my all and do my best, that I really didn't notice anything around me, what was happening. Now, as I started to get further and further into the test, it became apparent that this girl just was completely stuck on the first page, and she was doing little glances over towards my paper, and I'm not like one of those assholes who's going to be like shielding my paper, like, oh, you can't look off me, but I mean, I don't understand what she was trying to figure out in the first place with it, because all the problems were switched around, and she couldn't have copied even if she wanted to, but she started to get this distressed look, and I kind of paid attention out of my periphery, giving 99% of my attention to the test, the other 1% kind of checking out what this girl was doing, and she kind of just sat there, like slumped over a little bit. Like, how a kid on Christmas who maybe didn't get what they want, they'll kind of sit down with a hump and be like, and like throw their shoulders down a little bit and then lean forward on one elbow on their face and just kind of be antsy. That's exactly what she started to do. She started to get really antsy. She even did an audible, like, it's kind of like a frustrated humph like that. And it quickly deteriorated from there. I'm still sitting there taking the test. This is in the front row, so everybody can see from behind. And out of nowhere, this girl just puts her head down on her desk and just lays there, right in the middle of the test. Everybody's taking the test. We're in the front row. The professor can see this, or the TA, the guy that administered the test, can see it, kind of like inquisitively looks up and looks at her, and then gave me an eye look of like, what the hell's going on here? And I just kind of gave him that eye look, that universal eyebrow raise of, I don't know what's going on either, man. No clue. And so, I guess he assumed that I knew her, because we were the only two people on that side of the front row. And so she has her head down in her arms, and then out of nowhere I start to hear like a little bit, exasperated breathing, just a little bit like someone was like getting ready to cry. And I realized this girl's like getting ready to freaking cry here over an exam, like about to like break down and cry because she doesn't know how to do anything on this test. And this was It wasn't our final exam, but it was the last test before the optional cumulative final exam, and so it was the last chance to really bolster your grade up, because Lord knows the last one's going to be harder, and if it's optional, you want to do your best to avoid it. And so she just went from so cocky and confident, just like 30 minutes prior, to on her face, like arms laid apart, like a kid who didn't get what they wanted for Christmas, laying down, and starts to like sob a little bit, not loud crying, but enough that like probably a few people in the row behind me and the row behind that could notice this, and it just got to the point where the TA walked up to her and was like, "What's wrong? Like, what's wrong?" And she just was like, "I don't know any of this. I thought I knew it, and I don't know it." And she just like went on one of those like crying, like meandering kind of things. And he had to like shush this girl and be like, "Okay, there's a final. You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine." And so this girl just sat there for like 10 more minutes after the TA was like, "Do you want me just to take your test and you can go?" And it was like a kid who was eating dinner. She's like, "No, I'll try a little bit more." And it's just that kind of thing. Just hilarious. Like just an absolutely ridiculous series of events. And then eventually, about 5 or 6 minutes later, way before anybody else had finished the test, because it was impossible to finish it that fast, she just got up and went and turned her test in and left. And it just blew my mind. Like, I was imagining, like, what would have been his reaction if, like, me as a dude had did that. Like, if I just started, like, "I don't even know it." And, like, I guarantee he would have been like, are you high or something, man? What the hell are you doing? Like, Jesus Christ, it's an exam. But it was such a weird experience to just see someone go through all of those emotions from, I know this, I can do it, listening to music, confident, to, oh, maybe I don't know it as well as I thought. This guy kind of just corrected me on something that's, integral to the understanding of these concepts. And then down to, oh my God, I don't know any of these. What am I going to do? Maybe I can fudge my way through it. Down to, oh, life is over. And it was an entertaining series of events. So probably very unpleasant for her, but I wish her the best, whoever she may be on the next exam. So, yeah. No real moral to this story aside from, prepare for exams because it's important and it's a great way to stay in shape. The end.